Oh boy, what you doing?
Hello.
Well, welcome everyone to this week's episode of Oops Origami. How's everyone doing?
Good.
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 How are you?
Experiencing maybe my worst internet connection in a while, so this will be fun.
Yeah, you're back to green, so
Because you look
good
better than
start.
ever.
Yeah.
Are your packets being lost?
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
Yes.
Let's play a fun game
Oh yeah. What you got for us?
called Continuous Ping.
Yeah.
Fun fact. What's the biggest flaw with the built-in Windows continuous ping command?
Ooh.
I don't know. What is
Yeah,
it?
that do tell.
Upon loss, there is a full 3 seconds of lost data where it is not sending a continuous ping over and over. It's waiting for that 4 second.
Oh
loss.
yeah, it's waiting for that first one to fully time
Yeah.
out.
Right,
but
right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your interval's all messed up.
Your stats are all messed up then as well.
Good to know. Never cared enough. But well, I mean,
good answer.
well, if you're trying to do some serious monitoring with Windows Ping,
Yeah, it's a wrong tool for the job.
yeah.
There we go.
Oh, Benny's complaining of the late notice on the live stream. Mr. VMotion until it works should join us.
VMotion till it works. Good philosophy.
Oh, he probably got the YouTube alert.
Oh,
one
yeah.
person watching.
I would be out on the deck, but a band of modest rain has come through.
Okay.
The deck.
So, one interesting thing that happened in the last week is, well, what? How come you have my name on your?
Oh, hey, I do.
Anyways, I was about to say Chris, and then I noticed your name.
Let's fix that. I'll be right back.
Oh, you got to drop out.
you
You know
what? No, let's see if I can fix this.
Yeah.
Let's see how good the technology is. Oh, it's perfect.
It's perfect. It won't let you.
No. Ta-da!
There we go.
Just like that, I'm in witness protection.
So about VMware.
About VMware. Bought out by Broadcom.
Yeah, that's
surprised they were big. Broadcom was big enough to buy
that. So am I.
I mean, here's the thing about VMware. It's lucrative, but it's strangely not huge. Like Dell bought them, right? And Dell is not a tiny company, but you'd think like, okay, VMware, that's like a serious piece of the industry. But still, I don't get it. Also, Broadcom has been buying huge companies. Symantec, I mean, not all of Symantec, but they bought a fair amount.
Well, and I was super worried about VMware back when Dell bought them. That must have been, what, 7-8 years ago?
At least that, yeah.
At least that? Yeah. But surprisingly, they basically didn't touch them. And then they actually let him go. I guess if you love something, let it go. And if it gets bought by Broadcom, it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. I mean, because when Dell bought SonicWall, before that, SonicWalls were the shit. Now, and they just gobbled them up and destroyed them.
Yeah, they tend to do that. Well, yeah. I mean, every big company that thrives on acquisitions does that. I mean, Cisco.
Here's the thing: if you get large enough, the only thing left to you is to innovate through acquisition.
Yeah. That's understandable. That doesn't mean you need to squeeze all the blood out of everything you buy.
Yeah.
I don't think Broadcom has gotten that memo yet, though.
No,
And
I
that's
mean,
why I'm worried.
when you think about the size of companies like that, and they've stopped being innovated years and years ago, so they have very few tools left in their box. For the most part, what they know how to do is um, cut costs. They're really good at it. It may not be good for the companies they buy. It may not be good for them, but they know that if they cut costs enough, they're going to have enough cash to go buy somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to look really good for a few quarters and get everybody bonuses, and
your stock price is going to be great. Broadcom's is, what did I say? Stock price $580.13.
Yeah, the top line will always be fighting the bottom line. I'm not sure what else has Broadcom done besides the cell phone, the
mediocre network interfaces.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
I mean,
not a lot. I haven't heard them a lot in the news. Of course, I'm not really paying attention to them directly, but usually if they're doing something, someone's doing something, you kind of pick up the grapevine. I'm not sure what Broadcom is done. They make damn good processors, best I can tell. So
they still call themselves a semiconductor company.
So they looking to do embedded hardware virtualization.
They've got a big software arm, and that's the one that seems to be gobbling up other companies. So,
or tune VMware to like their processors where it's like lightweight. They sell the software, they sell the hardware. They're
VMware on ARM is the new as of like 2 years ago thing.
Yeah, on the ARM
new
processor.
Hotness.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
you're on like 10 VMs.
Maybe it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, maybe it doesn't make as little sense as I thought it did, but it still is a little odd.
That's not what they're going to do. In my estimation, that is not what they're going to do. They're going to... They're trying to grow their software. Let's see here. I just looked up their 9 acquisitions. They bought Optics. They bought a semiconductor company. They bought Symantec. They bought CA Technologies, and they bought Broadcom. That's 5. And, this article is free with subscriptions, so you don't get to hear about the other 4.
Ah, well.
But, there you go. Like Symantec, CA, and Broadcom. What do those have to do with each other? Nothing.
Yeah, it's interesting. But I don't know.
I mean, the only thing I can think is that they think that VMware on ARM is going to be huge. And they think that's the best way to make that happen for themselves and for VMware. Maybe. Or they looked at the books and were like, this is something we could squeeze for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Whenever something like this happens, I'm definitely a pessimist because I've seen too many of them go poorly.
Yeah.
Which, brings us to this point. Buyouts. Are they ever good for the consumer?
Why would any of this be good for the consumer?
I mean, what they'll tell you is that, they're going to leverage their new synergies to make gains in innovation and provide more value to their critical customer base.
You should work in marketing.
I mean, I can play buzzword bingo with the best of them.
Yeah, I have a feeling like every Broadcom NIC is going to be on the hardware compatibility list now, no matter
Whether or
how
not
good
it
they
works.
work.
Yeah.
Whether or not it works.
So, you know, I posted 2 articles here indicating, you know, one, a little bit about the buyout and their move to subscription model, which is like VMware was one of the last vestiges of, no, you bought it, you own it,
Yeah.
right? You're paying us for support, not for the product that we developed, 6 years ago. And then this one is, they're largely focused on enterprise customers. And I think that may be the secret to their sauce, is that they're taking, they're trying to buy companies with large, broad market share, and then
Focus
juice
on the
them.
most
Right,
profitable segment and
right.
screw the rest. Cut out all that marketing and all that spend that they see as unnecessary.
They're essentially becoming the anti-Walmart, right? No need to market, just, keep your whales happy and reap the rewards.
Well, it depends on if they actually keep them happy or if it's, oh, we figure you're kind of locked into us, so we're just going to milk you for all it's worth.
Yeah.
Yep. And that works for some companies for a while. It'll be interesting to see how it works
For a
out
while. Yeah. It can work for a while.
But let's talk buyouts in general. Have you ever seen a buyout that provided something good for the consumer?
The only ones I can really think of is the Palo buyouts, what they've bought, just because having multiple products spread across that ecosystem that can all communicate and work together well is
Yeah,
quite valuable.
I think they do a good job at merging their acquisitions, right? Like they bring them into the fold relatively quickly, um, apparently without damaging the core product too much. Um, it's one thing to bring another company on board and blend them quickly. It's another thing to do that without wrecking the core product. Like the reason you bought them, sometimes you buy for market share, right? But
Yeah.
oftentimes you're buying because the tech works really well.
Yeah, they really I mean, they don't really buy competitors. They buy they buy companies that provide a product in a market segment they want to get into.
Okay.
Like, hey, we need SD-WAN. Who's out there? Who can we buy? Whereas that wasn't really a product that they had before, not to any significant degree. Or like they wanted more cloud offerings, so they just bought some people that did it well. Or they wanted an XDR product, so they bought someone that did it well.
Fair enough. I mean, I'll put out another case for you. Look at Cisco with Meraki, right? Like Meraki was an independent company. Cisco bought them. Have they changed a lot about the Meraki product? I mean, it's been a long time.
See, I think that change went both directions. Meraki became more Cisco-y, and Cisco became more Meraki-y. So they kind of met in the middle on that one, which is probably for the best. And this one, it's kind of like, so you have Cisco, and then they bought Linksys. So they kind of have the home market covered. And they bought Meraki, which kind of covers that middle market, the higher end SMB, maybe smaller enterprise.
Sure.
I mean, it was
Well,
kind
it
of them
gave them a
fleshed
cloud
off.
first product too.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, because that's something they wanted, and really couldn't execute on.
Right. And I would argue that they still haven't in their core product offerings. Like
No,
there's no, I mean, how
they
long has it
love
taken to
that
finally get rid
subscription
of?
model though.
Sure.
DNA.
Oh yeah.
I mean, is it like officially 3-year minimum for DNA licensing now? When you
That's what
buy
I've
new
heard.
equipment, I know people have mentioned it, but I haven't bought anything from them in a bit. So I know for the
Right.
longest time, like many years, it was only 1 year. It was still stupid you had to buy it if you didn't want to use it, but they keep ramping that up because that DNA license costs as much as a Switch. I mean, they have their 9300 series switches, the Cat 9300s, especially like the L's, they're so cheap. I mean, yeah, that's partially subsidized by the licensing that they're going to force you to buy anyways.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's hard to do a cloud first product and not do something that really goes after your customer for some kind of ongoing fees, right? Like,
well, and that I totally get, but with them, they're trying to force people into getting licensing for on-prem stuff that most people just have no interest in.
right. I think that's the thing that a lot of companies miss is that, like, you could do a la carte or tiered pricing. And for the customers that want all the bells and whistles, great. Great. You can probably get away with like overcharging for the base level tier a little bit. Um, I think Google does that. The base level of Google Office or whatever G Suite is currently called is a little overpriced, but
Comparatively, yeah.
you're not paying as much as you would for the next tier up, and you don't need those features, so why pay for it, right? Like, it's still better than the nearest competitor. That you know, like the bottom tier of O365, not that attractive.
Yeah.
And O365 will tell you like, well, you get more, and you certainly do, whether you want it or not.
Actually, I just found out there's a O365 developer license you can get, a free one. It's only good for like 16 accounts. It resets every whatever amount of time.
Of course,
Or you have to renew it like every 90 days or whatever. But apparently it's pretty easy to hold on to. And it's meant for developer stuff, and it's going to be pre-plumbed with like fake accounts and stuff like for you to be able to test with. But I just found out about that like a couple of days ago, so I might have to stand one of those up just to be able to do some testing. I need to be able to test like SAML against O365 and Azure AD and all that shiz without spending a ton of my own money on playing around, I guess.
crazy.
Yeah.
I think that the idea of a developer license for that product is silly. Like, just give it away free.
Well, it is free. The developer license is free.
Okay. I mean, that's something anyway.
Yeah.
It isn't the standard Microsoft way of doing business where it's like, well, we want you to develop on our platform, but you're going to have to pay to do it.
Yes.
I mean, not as bad as Apple, to be clear.
No.
Oh, you want to develop on our platform? Well, buy the overpriced SDK. Also, buy hardware at full price that you're totally going to brick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little silly. And that's one of the things I always appreciated about VMware is the VMUG Advantage.
Yep.
I forgot how much it is. $200 a year, something like that. No, it's not $100 a year. I think it's $200 a year. But yeah, it's a little pricey, but you basically get every SKU they have everyone you conceivably want to run in a lab, and enough processors to be useful and all that. I've always told other vendors that that's kind of the model they should look to, because almost any networking systems vendor, you know what? Let your geek customers be geek customers. Give them a cheap way to be able to play with the products, either by themselves or for their company, and have an actual lab to play with.
Right. Let them become your brand advocate.
Yeah, it's basically costing you. It not even basically. It's costing you nothing.
It's free.
You're not taking away any licenses that would have been bought otherwise.
Yeah, they weren't going to buy your licenses anyway.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to buy. I think it's 16 CPUs of ESXi Enterprise. I'm not going to buy vCenter. I'm not going to buy vSAN. There is a 0% chance, not even the slimmest chance that I would ever buy all that stuff. But I've got it all running in a lab, and now I can keep on top of that stuff. Every other company should do the same thing, especially when they have resources that are, it's purely just a product key. It costs them nothing. They're not hosting anything. They're not giving you any support.
Yeah, no support. Have fun with it.
Yeah. It doesn't even have to be free, just very reasonably priced.
Yeah.
I mean, so like Palo Alto lab units, they're selling you the lab units at like half cost.
Yeah.
And then the licensing is super cheap. It's like $100 a year for every single license that you can put on the box, except for IoT, because you technically need Panorama to do IoT. But once again, I mean, it's very reasonable.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that even like take Palo, even half cost, and then you'll get some people to do it. You can get more to do it if you charge less. Charge the delivery cost, right? Like, what portion of your delivery system is this going to consume? Charge that. So if you're like,
see, then they should do that with VM licenses. So Citrix, most of their stuff you can get free or very cheap. So like Zen, or if you want to do NetScalers, there's a super cheap lab license for that. F5 has a super cheap lab license.
Yep.
But for like hardware, it's got to be a fine balance between, well, we don't want to send this or we don't want to sell this at a super loss, because then we're going to want to be super picky about who gets it.
Right. No, I think you cover your costs.
Maybe not picky, but let's sell it basically at cost or at a slight loss, whatever, and not have to be as picky, because it's not a huge loss, even if it's just somebody's gonna get and let it sit on their shelf.
Right. No, I mean, that's the way to go. Cover your costs or close to, and then make it available to anybody that's interested. I think,
but like VMs, like a VM Palo, there should be a lab that's basically free.
Yeah, I mean, you're already paying.
Whereas, I mean, it's not expensive. I think you can get the VM50 for like $200 with licensing for a year. But I feel like that's kind of high for what it is.
Well, and let's face it, your cloud provider is going to rake you over the coals for it anyway.
Yeah, if you host it somewhere. Luckily, you can run it pretty much anywhere. You get your free ESXi license that you don't even need Debug Advantage for, or you can run it on VBox or whatever. Hell, your free Zen license.
There's the question:
KVM.
How well would it run on VBox?
I don't know.
Like, is that my next home firewall solution?
No, I would not do that. But now, if you could take their VM and run it on bare metal, I mean, it's just at its core, it's just a Red Hat Linux, not server, but I mean image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a thought. I mean, come on. Performance is for people that, you know, performance for the weak, man.
Yeah.
Run it in VBox that's running in Hyper-V and that's running on KVM. It'll be great.
Nested hypervisors, that's always fun.
Yeah.
I mean, for some things, that's fine.
I mean, and you know what? I will give it like a state-of-the-art 486 to run on.
Well, I mean, since we're talking about virtualization, let's say hypothetically, I don't renew my VMUG Advantage license. What would I run in my home lab that would be useful? I've kind of considered KVM just because you can do most of the stuff. And once again, Red Hat has like a developer license where you can, for free, get access to all their shit.
Right.
But I mean, what else is there where you can have multiple nodes and be able to, what's a generic term for vMotion? I don't even know. Move between nodes based on demand
pods,
or
right?
availability.
Pods.
Yeah, kinda.
Is that like the generic?
See, then yeah, because then you're talking about specifically like containerization.
Yeah,
I'm talking more full VMs.
Yeah.
I mean, containerization gets a little bit easier.
KVM, good enough for Google. Shouldn't it be good enough for you?
Well, the thing about them is they can just run plain Jane. Well, maybe not plain Jane KVM, but they don't need any of the orchestration pieces because they do that all themselves.
Correct. Yeah, they really are just looking for basic virtualization.
Yes, they want bare metal plus just a scotch,
right?
Just enough to do what they need. Right. And then I'm sure they use all their own tooling for everything else. But like for me, that wouldn't want to have to write all that. And isn't feasible to do it anyways. What options are there?
I mean, you can run Hyper-V free with Windows. Ish.
See? I'd have to pay ish for Windows. I mean, I pay for my desktop versions now that I know I can get license keys for dirt cheap. And I've been doing that for a while. I mean, they're grayish market, but whatever. It activates. Microsoft
legal as far as
money.
You're concerned.
Yeah. Tell me otherwise.
Even if Microsoft, you know what? If Microsoft wanted you to use like legit licenses, they would provide a way to make sure to allow you to validate that they got their money. And they don't anymore. You know how to buy a license directly from Microsoft now? Like, I want to buy my own hardware. And I want to install my OS by myself. Really effing hard.
Yeah. And you're paying full list price.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what? Probably $300 for Windows 10 Pro. Whereas I can get a Cal for I think $10 or $15.
As long as you work for Corp.
Bullshitcorp.org.
I believe you're talking about bullshitcorp.china.
Yes, .cn.
.co.uk.cn.
It wasn't. I didn't force them to sell the same product for different prices internationally.
Yeah.
CNET says that home is 120 and Pro is 200.
Okay. I got paid $10.
That is a bargain at a quarter
And
of
the
the
funny
price.
thing is, I might have paid 15 or 20, but at that price, I licensed all my machines, even my VMs. Like I have a Windows 11 VM that I've ran for a total of probably 15 minutes. I even licensed that. All legit-ish. Because it was cheap enough where I didn't care.
You paid and the license is validate. That's legit.
Not seeing that little banner at the bottom is worth 10, 15 bucks to me. I mean, I wonder if there's server cals, because I could actually use some for a lab.
Ooh, that's a good question. Some
I
sweet 2019 cows.
Because what is it? 90 days you can run server without. Yeah, and then there was something you can there's a way to like bump it.
Yeah.
You just need to like reboot it was like 60 or 90 days or whatever. And you can do that like half a dozen times and then you're SOL. But even 6 months or a year, I mean, that's more than enough for labs I need to build up. I just need to be able to test stuff.
I found a place that's advertising it for $2.50.
$2.50?
No, $250.
I was going to say, I'll buy 10 right now while we're live.
That's an episode right there. Buying
I would buy
and
100.
Buying and using Grayware live.
For $2.50 a piece, I would buy 100 cals. No, I'd only need 4 before I'd buy one for $250.
Fair enough.
Because retail on that's like 500, at least was back in the day. Server standard.
Yeah. Anybody legit that's doing it is doing it for $400 or $500.
Yeah,
for a standard.
That's too much for a throwaway VM.
That'd be one thing if you could reuse that easily.
Yeah, without making a call to the black hole of Microsoft.
That is correct.
Although you are the expert of those calls.
I got to listen in on somebody else calling Microsoft today.
Yeah.
It was slightly less painful. Still painful because, PTSD is real.
All suffering is real, Chris. We feel for you.
It was just, yeah.
I'm not sure if it was. I'm not sure if it was bad as the international connectivity provider that I had to deal with. Where
them
they scheduled a very last minute phone call with a tier 2 provider, tier 2 engineer, and I said, oh, we're having the original ticket was connectivity between X and Y, and they bring up they share their screen and they say, well, we don't have X as a site that we are responsible for.
And I'm going to stop you right there, kiddo. You are incorrect. You are wholly incorrect.
We're only responsible for the 12 sites you see, sir. I said, well, we got about 60 or so sites.
78, I think.
78, whatever it is. Then 60 plus crickets.
Yeah.
And the site that was that the ticket was put in under wasn't even listed as the sites that were they listed. Yeah.
So they've already boop, boop.
Well, and I gave them the address of the site that was affected, and they're like, well, we don't they were very adamant, adamant that they don't support those sites, and those sites are either they don't provide the circuitry for those sites or manage the hardware for those sites.
Well, they do, and they do.
Well,
and they are billing you dearly for both of those privileges.
And
They'll
it just
bill you
goes
even
back
if
to
they don't.
I want to know the right words to say. I don't know what that.
I get that they are not the LEC in actually probably any of your sites.
Probably
That's fine.
Maybe 10%.
You are still not the customer of that LEC. They
want
are
to
the customer.
know.
That is their they got that circuit. They ordered that circuit. They manage that circuit. They manage the CPE. That CE router is theirs. I don't care whether it was a Cisco 800 or 900 series from before, or if it's the Versa box that lives there now. It is wholly managed by that. You don't even have access to those devices. How could you be responsible for managing them?
I want to know the right words to say to communicate all of that.
There aren't any.
I don't. What's that?
There aren't any.
Well,
I'm 90% sure which vendor we're talking about, because I've had my period of time with various connectivity providers in the past, and there's only one that's that bad. There's some that are
They're
close.
actually all pretty much that bad.
There's some that are close, but no, my blue spidey sense is coming up.
Yeah, well, you can put it in the private chat if you want, but I don't have any skin in the game one way or another, whether they burn or not. I don't care.
We just want the shit to work.
Even no, sir.
No. Yeah,
but,
right.
But probably
just as bad.
two birds of a feather flock together. So I not even do I care if there are problems. I because there will be at some point. There will be problems. I'm not oblivious to the nature of the world around me, but I want insight into what happened, and I don't really have that.
Yeah.
So that means like I'm just running around like through this gauntlet where all of a sudden out of the dark like this like thing comes and smacks me on the side of the head, and like I don't know what that is, but it smacked me on the side of the head. I can't explain it.
Well, it's black box troubleshooting, basically. Because you have a magic box that you hand packets and you expect to make it to the other side, because they manage no matter what they told you on the phone, they manage every bit that travels through that black box.
And they do. It's just like I didn't use the right word.
Manage might not be the right word.
Well,
they manage it. I don't know what words I need to use to describe the management of I don't know what words I need to use to trigger down the right rabbit hole for them
without triggering the disconnect button.
Yeah, like it's not us, it's you. Thank you very much.
No, more like I won't tolerate that profanity.
Yeah. So I'm trying to be very cordial. However, the struggle is real.
You're a better man than I. I haven't used expletives with telco providers, but I have definitely raised my voice on like first or second tier people that they're really just following a script, but like at some point you get to pick who you work for.
Yeah.
So like if you actively resist me for long enough, you're going to raise my ire.
Mm-hmm. So, William, you look like a man that's just itching to talk about VMware.
William enters the chat.
You already spoke about VMware tonight?
Oh, we're welcome
a little.
to revisit it. I'm sure you have additional insight into this.
Probably not much more than you went over. Just my insight mostly comes from a place I formerly worked used to use Bluecoat, which got bought by Symantec, which then got bought by Broadcom.
Oh, yeah.
And
how'd that work out for you?
when they got bought by Symantec, the quality actually went up a little bit. Like the support was better. They ended up with some better UI for their products, and then Broadcom bought them, and everything was quiet on the Eastern Front for a couple of months, and then they merged their support team with Broadcom, and everything went downhill real fast.
Yeah,
I mean, Broadcom would tell you that the reason Symantec went out of business is because they did things like make other companies better.
I just remember I went from having support people who knew their products to having support people that juggled me. And it was like, hey, you belong in this department. You belong. It was like how when you call and you get put on hold and you're going through the different departments, except it was via email over like a 3-week period while our systems were down.
Yeah, that's where the flow chart took them. So that's where they sent you.
So I'm not looking forward to VMware, and I imagine VMware is good enough that the core product will remain functional and probably the best in the business for a while. But I'm not going to forget my my alternate hypervisor skills that I've built up over the years, just in case.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the support will be the best that 75 cents an hour can buy.
I mean, VMware support, unless you really paid for it, wasn't that great anyway. I mean, it was adequate. It was support, but like it wasn't like mind-blowing.
Yeah.
You get it
for what you're paying, it should have been better than adequate.
Yeah. Was it stateside support or?
Some of it.
Yeah, sometimes. Now with Broadcom, none of it will be.
No.
Not for long anyway.
Yeah. They're gonna dump all that.
It's gonna be the first to go. Yeah.
I think you linked one of those articles. But basically, what they did with Symantec and what they're going to do with VMware is they target those top 600 customers that make them all their money, and they just stop investing any R&D into anything that anyone else wants. So their enterprise product.
Oh, continue.
Their enterprise product will most likely continue to be strong, or even get possibly even stronger. But the functionality or the ability to run small instances on your own will probably be locked. I'm expecting certain pieces of functionality that were never behind licensing to now suddenly live behind licensing.
You
need Platinum Enterprise now.
Yeah.
Now you need Platinum Enterprise plus.
Where you described, cutting off, the tail to save the head of the fish kind of thing. You save your most profitable, you cut everything else. I mean, you described every MSP provider who's been coined since the dawn of time.
Yep.
I mean, it's not my first rodeo. Where does your money come in? That's where your money gets put kind of back into it, and you cut.
But what's sad about that is there's certain the quote unquote service economy. At some point, you still need to have products that the entire industry is built on, and when everyone is trimming everything off of it, it just becomes less over time.
I mean, really what they're doing is they're making room for the next better thing to get into the market for not that much money. Like they're removing obstacles to competition.
It makes
when you have a strong
a
product
whole lot more attractive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where possible.
I mean, you can run a containerized instance on a couple of Raspberry Pis.
Yep.
And for some workloads, it'll run great.
Well, if you can buy a Raspberry Pi.
I mean, fair enough.
Very true. Colin.com for that.
Yeah, I got two of them sitting right next to me.
Yeah, my XU4s are like worth their weight in gold right now.
Do you need one?
I have one in the other room.
I think I got 2
Yeah.
XU4s and I think 2 Raspberry Pis just sitting there.
Brian,
So I
I've got a whole
prescient.
bunch.
He had
Yeah.
like 2 years ago. He had like 3 or 4 boards when he couldn't get lumber. And now he's got Raspberry Pis.
so I actually
I have a
have something I
flask
can,
full of gas for next week.
just because we started talking about Raspberry Pis, I've got something that I can come up with out of left field here. Have any of you gentlemen ever heard of the Turing Pi?
The
Hmm.
Turing Pi?
Yes,
Turing
the
Pi?
Turing Pi, the Gen 1 Turing Pi was a 7-slot board for running Pi compute units for like a cluster in a box. They just successfully did their Kickstarter for Gen 2, and it's now a standard ITX form factor with the switch built in. Video output comes off of one of them.
I might have seen that on like Lilliputian or
Yeah.
somewhere.
There you go.
Yeah,
I
Turing
know.
Pi.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to get in that Kickstarter because I really want that Gen 2 board, and they just passed their big stretch goal of developing their own compute units using some like crazy powerful little chip with like 32 gigs of RAM on it. But interesting looking products. I'm not really big into Kickstarters, but I've been following this for a couple of years.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Because I've been looking at just like little rack mounts that can hold like 4 Pis or whatever. But somebody has a better way to do all of that.
It'd be nice to get a
Especially
little,
if it's with parts you can get.
get one of those little mini ITX boxes, the super slim ones with the little Flex ATX PSU, and hook it up and cluster in a box.
Exactly. Huh. Because it's getting to the point where, especially if you do some of the Pi alternatives, you can get a reasonable amount of computing power. I mean, because I've got 4Bs with 8 gigs, and they're like at the lowest end of usable for any kind of virtualization or any kind of clustering for like not real workloads, but like real workloads.
I love what the way pricing on Pis are right now. The only 4s that are worth buying money wise are the 400s, the ones with the keyboard.
Oh yeah.
Just your Pi cluster will look like any computer repair shops back desk, like this keyboard's piled up all over it.
Yep. Well, I mean, it was a decent product. I mean, they were bin CPUs and they were overclocked out of the box. So, yeah, that Turing Pi is interesting, though. Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, I'm already running a server that I can virtualize on, so it's kind of like, it's already on doing other things. But I don't know if I was really interested in building a cluster. Why don't I just do that? There is something to be said for doing it in hardware. It's fun to do it in hardware.
Yeah, I want to do it for fun, just because, and whatever I could run on there, I would. I mean, because I have a way overpowered VMware cluster.
I don't have a cluster because I'm still living in an apartment, and my server has to live in the living room with me. So I've got
I only keep 2 nodes up at a time because $800 power bills are not fun. Yeah,
I picked up a ATX ASRock 2011 board many years ago, a workstation board with IPMI on it, and I sourced a 2697 V2, so a 12 core Ivy bridge, and 64 gigs of RAM, and I got it down to like 50 watts idle.
That's not bad.
It goes up to like 250, 300 when it's under full load.
Yeah,
and it's dead quiet the whole time.
Yeah, mine's dual 10-core V3 Xeons, 512 gigs of RAM per node, 4 nodes.
Sounds like what we're running.
Oh, it just the lights dim when you power on. It's ridiculous. So, like I said, way overkill for the half a dozen VMs I'm running. I just need to find something better, something more economical. But yeah, that's that ThoughtSpot box, Chris.
Yep.
That thing is or not ThoughtSpot.
The
yeah,
GSA.
ThoughtSpot. No, the GSA, that thing sucked way too much power. I stole all the actually most of the memory for that is in that workstation you have.
Yep.
Well,
Those,
part of the memory for that, yeah, because I threw 128 gigs in that thing.
the GSAs were impressive, but the ThoughtSpot is it's like a
Oh yeah,
uh,
dual 10 core, 20 threads. It's a solid box. Runs a great little vSAN cluster, but the power is killer. So
yes.
Yeah, I've got some nice hardware I could put together some stuff. I just don't really have a big drive for it right now. I've got like a couple of 9211, a couple of 9311 LSA HBAs, so I could get something going. But
yeah,
like you said, power, heat.
yeah, I've got mine down in the basement, so like heat isn't that bad, except for in the summer. It's just the power. So if it were not VMware, what else would you let? So let's say I didn't want to renew my VMUG Advantage. I actually talked about this before you came on, but let's say I didn't want to renew my VMUG Advantage, and I wanted to run a multi-node virtualization cluster and be able to move VMs between hosts without a ton of screwing around. I was kind of leaning towards KVM, but you've used multiple things. What would you say? What would you do?
So I've used KVM. It's not terrible. I played with Proxmox a little bit. I am rather impressed with Proxmox, which is mostly built on KVM. I spent 7 years managing and building multiple Hyper-V environments.
Ooh.
Well, I mean, you say, but it's like if you already have the licensing, it's
Yeah,
when
and I
compared to
don't.
when compared to KVM, it's like I always looked at KVM and Hyper-V as pretty much on a level playing field. VMware was
Yeah,
always
that's fair enough.
And I mean, yeah, I would if you didn't want to go with Hyper-V, I would probably be looking at Proxmox. Other options coming down the pipe would be something like Harvester.
Not familiar with Harvester.
Harvester is Rancher is building. It's like a Kubernetes cluster or a KVM hypervisor that is managed via Rancher, and things are treated like containers the whole way down.
Gotcha,
And
gotcha.
it's a hyperconverged thing like they've been building.
Huh. That actually sounds super interesting.
So like deploying a container, but you deploy a container that has VM like tags basically. Like it's got these physical things. It's a VM instead of a container.
Now, can it manage containers and VMs with the
Yes.
same tool chain? That
Yes.
would be cool.
I think that's probably the whole reason
But
they
no,
built it.
that would be pretty cool. Because I do want to build up a small Kubernetes cluster.
Which product is that?
That's Harvester. I first saw it back when we were playing around with our Kubernetes POC, and it's recently gotten like a couple new releases, and some of the tech guys I watch have been going nuts about it.
Yeah. Open interoperable HCI with Harvester Rancher.
It uses Longhorn for its storage backend, just like if you're running a Kubernetes cluster. Rancher has slowly built out like almost everything they need to have an HCI.
Okay, yeah, that's super interesting. And I'm sure I've heard of Rancher, but Harvester, never. So I'm gonna check this out.
Well, Rancher, they did all the Kubernetes work and trying to be like a easy deploy for Kubernetes and trying to be like an easy management for Kubernetes across multiple spaces. SUSE went and bought them, and you ended up with OpenShift with Red Hat, Rancher with SUSE, and I forget what Ubuntu had. They have their own stuff too, and also just while we're talking about that, Proxmox has the ability to run LXDE containers natively on the hypervisor as well. So either that or what else would you go with? Go as hard containerized as you can and have a couple of physical boxes, I guess, for things that don't containerize. If you were anti-Microsoft, you didn't want to run KVM, you didn't think Proxmox was good enough to have in an enterprise environment, and you're just done with VMware. Yeah, I mean, containerize everything you can, run a bunch of stuff in the cloud, and run a couple of things that need to stay, run a couple of things bare metal that need to stay on-prem.
Yeah. Despite the fact that it might be cheaper in some regards, I'm trying to avoid running anything in the cloud. Anything in the cloud that I have to pay for. Let's put it that way. So,
I mean, even this is the case where, like, for small business, cloud might be a little cheaper, but for personal use, you're back to the same economics that are present for larger businesses, right? Like, or related economics. It's just not going to be cheaper for you because,
Whatever happened to Zen?
It's still around, or at least was last time I checked.
Like, can you still run it? I know it's like
free at the simplest form, kind of like ESXi. If you just want a single standalone box, it's free.
I mean, Citrix has their own hypervisor too. I don't know what it runs on. I think that's Zen, isn't it?
That's Zen.
Okay, so that's
Citrix is Zen.
Technically an option.
Well, you can't do any of the orchestration stuff without paying. So the free version of Zen is exactly like just ESXi unlicensed.
Yeah.
Where it's you can run it, but you can't like have vCenter manage it.
Oh, I meant more from an enterprise level. Like if you're looking for something else,
gotcha,
it's like Zen's around. You can get support from Citrix.
True.
Might even be halfway decent if you already have a Citrix install.
But do you want free support from Citrix?
I didn't say free. I said paid support.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want paid support from Citrix?
Do I want paid support from Broadcom?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's like, do I want paid support from Azure? I guess.
Support, I guess.
Can I have a lollipop instead?
Well, even if it's shit flavored, it's still a lollipop.
Exactly.
Oh, I got something for you gentlemen also. I don't know if it'll morph into a bigger talking topic or not.
Oh, yeah.
Backup provider of ours had us upgrade the version of the appliance that we were using to try and fix an issue. And turns out they decided to change what kind of snapshots they're taking.
Oh.
And I've dealt with this before in Hyper-V land because what happened there was we upgraded the Hyper-V to 2016, and in order to take snapshots of domain controllers, you had to have VSS aware snapshots, and 2012 R2 didn't support VSS aware snapshots with the default tool set, so I couldn't back up my domain controllers anymore. So what happened here was all of the old VMs that were running pre-2016 that didn't have the VSS provider like pre-configured in VMware stopped backing up, and the provider didn't. So we fixed it by we talked to them. They went, oh, here's a hot fix to fall back to the old version, like if it fails. It's like the normal release just went, nah, no more backups. failed to QoS the file system.
Now, I'm sure the answer is clearly yes, but there's actually people that back up domain controllers. Why?
Well, I mean,
clearly you haven't had to do a domain restore recently.
Oh, you run enough domain controllers where it doesn't matter.
Oh no, no.
I
the worst case scenario is where they run just fine until they're finished corrupting each other.
Yeah, but backing up one VM isn't going to help you. It's
No, like
brick level PD backup option.
Well, in the case of the Hyper-V system where I was backing that stuff up, we only had 3 domain controllers. So if they all went
Okay.
down, we would have actually just killed them all and restored one.
Oh, fair enough.
And in the case of the other one, that was just my individual case. In the case of the current environment I run, we actually use a product called Sempris, which
Okay.
backs
Not
up.
familiar.
So it has 2 components. One does forest level restores. Like, let's say everything is dead, you can stand up a new domain controller and inject your domain into it.
Okay.
And the other aspect of it is it actually does change tracking.
That would actually
across
be really
all the-
cool for kickstarting a lab, but
Yeah.
that just popped in my head.
And the other aspect it does is it does change tracking. So you can actually, for like the last 30 days or whatever it is, you're like, okay, who changed the security group? Or, hey, someone deleted a user.
Oh,
And you can
okay.
just
like
roll it back.
like group policy changes, just roll them back.
Yeah.
Um,
And that I would see as super useful. And I understand why, like William with the 3 domain controllers, if everything falls down, you restore one and just move on with your life.
We had one in the cloud, one in the cluster, and one in an
right.
off-cluster machine. And
right.
Gotcha.
No, but seriously, as a guy that has looked for better solutions to backup and protection of Active Directory for a good portion of my career, I also experienced Sempris, and it's a pretty slick product. Like, it does everything that you've kind of always wanted Active Directory backup to do. And you know, in my estimation, it's worth every penny.
All right.
Very, very few products that way today. This is one of them.
what was the other thing I was going to bring up? We were talking about that, and another product we use. I'm not going to name names on this one because it's kind of embarrassing. It runs a couple of what are basically thin clients, like web terminals for accessing like a packaging system. The whole system locked up today, and it took us a while to figure out why. And apparently, this happens when it does some sort of maintenance where it looks at all the users who've tried to log in that day.
Okay.
And they said there's an edge case where if someone sets something on a keyboard and walks away, comes back and hits enter, it will submit a like infinity length username.
Or long enough to be an overflow and screw something up.
In the database. Yes.
Yeah. Nice.
Gotta love inappropriate data scrubbing. Like, why isn't there a maximum field length on that? Seriously. Like,
yeah, everything stopped working. Just everything grind to a halt. Every service on that system.
That's
didn't take long to come back up. Like, as soon as it cleared, it was like, oh, there it is again. It's all back up. But it's like, wow, what a mess.
And setting a box on a keyboard is totally something that can happen in a warehouse all the time.
And with certain workforces, now that they know it can happen.
Or they set down the like the tape gun or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
It was just barely hitting the space bar 10,000 times.
And then they came back and entered their username, and then.
Yep. That's awesome. That's super awesome.
The things some people get away making money on providing.
I thought it was going to be another service running as a former admin.
No.
I was just hoping it wasn't me.
No, we
found out who that
all
was.
Those. Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure to scrub as many as possible.
Also,
last departure.
Other strange and weird happenings all happened today for some reason. PowerShell. When you had a systems technician trying to output a list of names from a security group for some higher ups. And he was running the commands correctly, but he was getting an unknown error has occurred.
Oh, that's super useful.
And yep. So if you are in an environment where you have cross-domain references and cross-domain trusts, and you delete a user from the cross-domain, and you end up with the SID remaining, you know how that happens. You end up with a SID remaining.
Yeah.
Orphan
If you
SIDs.
if you open that group in ADUC, it throws a little warning saying like, we can't properly render your name because the reference doesn't exist. Well, PowerShell just throws an error and doesn't give you any data.
Oh,
That's what's happening on the back end. That thing's popping up, but it has no idea how to handle that.
That's
another
awesome.
well-polished Microsoft product.
Yeah, I spend time going like direct cross domain joins make me sad. I understand them. I know why they're there, and it's a pain to like link everything into like it's a pain to go and make a security group for every user in another domain just you can link not using a reference. But
Yeah, that's
sometimes
gross in itself.
yeah, there's both the problem and the solution are kind of evil.
Yeah, just talking about it is going to make me cry.
Well, maybe there's an easy PowerShell way to identify all those
There is.
broken
There
links
is.
and delete
There is.
them.
You turn on PowerShell logging and you make some registry changes, and then you can run that command, and it actually spits out every single SID that doesn't work. And then you can run that SID against a who, like some sort of PowerShell whois command, and if it returns no value, you delete the SID.
Fair enough.
Or you just look at it and go, hey, there's another reference to that domain that's working here, and these SIDs are empty. Delete, 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 delete.
Or you run the PowerShell whois command and only pass the values of the SIDs to the command that's checking groups.
Ooh.
Look at this guy. You did a lot of PowerShell before you moved on.
I still do a lot of PowerShell. You should see my... I think it's up to 900 lines of PowerShell.
Ooh. Sorry to hear that.
People talk about PowerShell as like, oh, awful, like scripts that large. At some point, PowerShell stops being a scripting language and it starts being a low-grade development language, right? And it does have a lot of those capabilities built into it. Like you compare PowerShell to Python, which most people are like, oh yeah, Python, totally valid development language. Like Python and PowerShell, pretty similar.
You can do most of the stuff, even in like C#. You can do most of the stuff. Any pretty much any .NET stuff you can do in PowerShell. It's just not tuned for that. So it's
Right.
like you're gonna spend a day making this box and drawing this like drawing this user interface. Where in something else have been like, here you go, here's the tool set.
Right. Also, when you do it in PowerShell, it's going to take a half a day to render.
Get child item is the devil.
Has the documentation for PowerShell at least gotten a little bit better?
Some
'Cause I really
has.
haven't touched it much in probably 4 years, and it was awful. Almost every entry in the documentation was a command, and then without any descriptions, just a list of all the arguments. And that was it.
Yes.
So there's
Which
still
is
a good...
completely useless. I could hit question mark and get that a lot quicker.
That's pretty much what some of the early PowerShell documentation was. Is they just
I know.
dump
That's
question mark.
That's my biggest. Yeah.
A lot of it now provides more examples, and some of them are frequently useful. It's not entirely true. Like there's PowerShell stuff out there that still is as poorly documented as you remember, but there's typically, when you look up a PowerShell command, you'll get at least 2 or 3 examples that'll show you like what the command does and what it returned. And from that, plus some of the descriptors, you can work it out. That, and it's been around long enough now that the end user community can often fill in the rest of the blanks for you.
Well, yeah. And back when I was trying to do anything, it was all end user community. Because it was like, okay, I have this poorly named argument. I don't even know what you're looking for. So I don't even know what to pass you. So you just try random shit until something doesn't die. And then, oh, okay, well, now I got some output. Now I know what I need to do to that afterwards to try and do something else with it. It was just, there was so much trial and error because the documentation was so poor. And it was like pretty much, well, I'm just going to keep Googling and hopefully somebody decent tried to do something with this.
Never found yourself in the right output to the code, writing C# code or C# programs for Windows services, where you're like, well, there's no debugger. Let's just write, this part, write purple out to write it out to the system log.
Oh yeah, that works.
Purple, green, gold, and you're like, what? Like, watch how far it gets. It dies.
I mean, because most of it is like pseudo familiar. I mean, because I've been doing shell scripts forever, and in a shell script, I mean, everything is just text, and you're just passing the output of one command to the input of the next, basically. Whereas with PowerShell, it's all objects.
Right.
It's not really that different. I just need to know, well, what do I need to do to make this look the way you're expecting it for the next thing in this chain?
Yeah. They've done better recently about making sure that like clusters of commands handle data similarly. So like there's the typical get something and set something.
Yes.
And it used to be that like you'd do a get and it would return one thing, and then the set would expect a completely different thing.
In a different format, yeah.
Right. Now they're much better about it. So you can just pipe the results of one command in a set to
without
another
having to filter down to a specific
Yeah.
column or something.
Unfortunately, they moved that idiosyncrasy to Azure with the AZ commands and the Azure RM commands.
Azure CLI is they want it to become the next thing. They want it to replace PowerShell, clearly. Azure CLI is like, in many ways, it's as bad as old school PowerShell. The problem is for Azure CLI is that PowerShell is now a pretty well-developed system that a lot of people know, and it interacts with the same APIs at the end of the day. There's only a few things that you're forced to use Azure CLI for.
I think the only things that really ever still get me in PowerShell are when you kind of step outside the fence a little bit. Like for automating our new hire scripts, I was forced to bring in data from an Excel document, not a CSV, an actual good old fashioned XLSX, and I had issues with fonts and having to run Win32 commands to pop.
You should have given them a Google form that they can just it dumps to CSV, and
they were like, don't you dare touch our hiring document kind of a thing. Like everything else was in the process, but
must be XLSX.
They can't figure out how to tell IT when somebody's been let go for 6 months.
This is true.
So anything that they say needs to be taken with a grain of salt.
My favorite story from that was, do you know what? So they used webdings or wingdings to get the check mark.
Oh, jeez.
Do you know what the check mark is when you translate it back to normal text, normal fonts?
I don't even know.
It's an umlaut.
Oh. Okay.
It was really hard to do if is not umlaut. Eventually, I just was like, nah, we're just doing is checking if it's null or not. I couldn't get the string comparison to do is an umlaut or not.
Yeah.
Also, pulling in random SharePoint libraries to make horrible PowerShell things work. Like just import SharePoint, go get it.
Yeah.
You make me cry.
Just hearing SharePoint makes me gig a little bit.
Yeah. By the way, the game of my continuous ping after, let's see here, how many do I have? After 4,306, I've lost 5.
Ooh, that's
what are
good.
You pinging?
That's good.
Continuous ping to Google.
Oh, are you testing something?
Just for funsies. My average is 19 milliseconds. I assure you, my connection quality is not as good as those statistics should indicate.
It should be pretty good, right?
Yeah, these stats say that.
now.
I mean,
Right?
it's
Yeah.
small packets, so they handle them
It
quite
should-
well.
Yeah, teeny
Should
tiny.
be
In fact.
fine.
I can
Yeah.
I can give you more product placement. My parents' router died a couple weeks ago, and I had to go replace it for them. But I'm running a customized version. I'm just running OpenWRT on a Linksys router.
Oh.
But because they need SQM really badly, because they live in crappy DSL land with cameras everywhere that like to upload to the cloud.
Oh, geez.
So because I was done messing around with it, I went and picked up an IQ router. Which, if you are not a if you want nothing to do with OpenWRT, but you want SQM and you don't want to have to run like an Eero or something else like that, it is a slightly customized version of OpenWRT that automatically does SQM and does constant speed monitoring and auto adjusts the stuff. It's just an Archer, like an A7, like an overpriced Archer A7.
Yeah.
But as far as out of the box, like ease of use, that's probably the nicest OpenWRT install I've ever seen.
All right.
Firewall.com.
No, Chris.
No.
Firewall.
The people I'd be buying it from, will never manage it. And then once they figure out it can be managed, they'll do nothing but ask me to come up and manage it for them.
Well, no. First, they'll break it irreparably,
Right?
to the point where you can't do anything remotely. And
broken firewall.
It's like how you're sitting there and you're like, "Hey, my grandparents want a new computer, but they don't want to pay anything for it." And it's like, "Well, this." And you find them a computer. They're like, "Well, and I need to buy Windows." Well, that's too much money. It's like, I'm not giving you Linux. No.
yeah, no.
So, let's talk while we're on the topic of things for parents. I need to get my mom a new computer.
I'm sorry to hear that.
You know, she is she's actually one of the best end users I've ever had. She knows her limitations. She backs up her stuff on a regular basis. And she tries to figure it out herself and comes with good, salient, substantive questions. So, like, for an end user that I have had for 25 plus years, she hasn't fired me and I have not fired her. So that's good.
So what's she coming from?
She's got a HP laptop that just isn't performing well.
How old is that?
It's not that old, but it's clearly not good anymore. Like, she's pretty religious about keeping her malware endpoint protection up to date, and you know, it's consumer grade endpoint protection, but still, you know, she's got something.
And she's a consumer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't really go to websites that would make her prone to malware infection. And she's pretty observant, right? The challenge is, like, she's describing to me boot times that are like 20 or 30 minutes.
What?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not badly performing. That's broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's inconsistent. So she's like, well, I knew there was a Windows update. So I installed the Windows updates and I rebooted. And then I came back the next morning. It took forever. And I'm like, okay. Like, even if it's Windows updates, like,
It's an SSD?
Yeah.
That's the question. So what I'm looking at is, what do I get next?
It's all
Because
that
I'm just going to buy her something.
It's all that you got a lot of malware getting loaded up there. All the Bitcoin miners trying to get loaded up.
Yeah. She has Symantec and she enabled the Bitcoin miner that's on it.
Yeah, and
Thanks, Broadcom.
Enable Bitcoin miner.
Oh God, there's gonna be a Bitcoin miner in VMware.
Yes.
Have you seen the one in Norton?
I haven't actually seen it, but I'm aware of it. That
Oh,
was just like 6
so
months
bad.
ago.
And it's like impossible to remove after you put it in.
Yeah.
Nice.
Um,
If you knew my mother, you would know that it's not the Bitcoin miner.
okay, so what's the budget?
I'd really like to let's throw a budget number out there of like 450, 500. Like
450,
it-
500.
right.
Your best bet at that point, I mean, in my opinion, aside from like a refurb, off lease laptop from a business, your Dell Latitudes, your T450s, T460s, which are coincidentally in a big bin right now at work.
Mhm.
Other than that, I would
Solid
be
machines.
scoping like Best Buy every day. Like I've seen so many like i3s and lower end i5s that have come in around the $500 or lower mark on daily sales, just because right now they're putting the new all the new Alder Lake chips are coming out, so all the last gen ones keep coming up on crazy sales.
Yeah.
I mean, for mom and dad, Facebook, YouTube, some sort of email.
Chromebook.
What are you doing?
If they aren't doing like application based stuff, yeah, I mean,
what applications are mom and dad using?
Office.
Maybe
I
Office.
even broke her of Office. She's now apart from occasionally having to convert something that somebody emails to her, she's 100% G Suite.
Nice.
Oh.
My
So maybe
my grandparents will. My grandparents will let go of their Office when they pry it from their cold dead hands.
The only reason that it still needs to be Windows is like your parents with Office. My mother with QuickBooks.
Oh no!
Sorry, Quicken.
Okay. I was say she'll be able to buy QuickBooks in a couple of years.
Quicken. Oh, she has found a way to get the hard copy of Quicken for well beyond when they want to sell her the downloadable hard copy of Quicken. And it's the system she knows, and she's pretty careful with her money. So yeah, I mean, I was thinking like Dell Refurb. I like the Dell Refurb product. I have Dell Refurb product now. I'm happy with it. You get something that's like sometimes as little as like 6 months or a year old.
How big?
Yeah.
Like how physical size?
She uses it as a vaguely portable desktop.
Okay. So not a 13-inch.
Probably not. No, she'd adapt, but probably not. At the same time, like she doesn't need like a 19-inch or something
like
stupid.
a 15.6.
Yeah.
Standard.
Okay, Best Buy right now. Lenovo IdeaPad 3, Core i3, 8 gigs RAM, 256 gig SSD for $419.
You should email that to me.
That's fine.
It's
funny you mentioned the Dell refurbished. I think I got my 27-inch Dell flat screen monitors. It had to be 12, 13 years ago now. Like back when a 27-inch
LCD was something special.
Yeah, that was back when 27-inch was something special. When they came in, I was like, oh, I was the big dick, daddy of monitors. And to this day, I still have them. They're slowly being replaced by 4K, whatever. But refurbished served me well. It served me well. They save me cost, and I never once had a problem with them.
I would get a refurb of the like enterprise lines for a laptop from Dell or Lenovo before I get any of the consumer stuff, even brand new.
Oh
The
God,
price was
yeah,
the same.
yeah.
It's better built. It's more serviceable.
Usually,
You're going to be able to find parts for a lot longer.
Right. Yeah. By the way, Jesse, you can get a list price Dell Refurb Ultra Sharp 32-inch Premier Color. Original price was $4,000. You can get it for $2,900 right now.
I remember I paid a lot. I saved my
It
nickels.
costs more than
at
this
the time.
car, so
Yeah, it cost more than my car at the time. Like at the time, like the 20. I gotta look them up. Every time they were like 27-inch dual. You know that they weren't 4K at the time because that didn't exist, but they were
Here you go.
1280 by 1070, full HD. You know, whatever that was worth. And they served me quite well.
You can get a 55-inch Ultra HD interactive touch monitor, 55-inch touch monitor, for $1,250.
oh,
That
You can get
seems cheap.
You can get a 38-inch curved USB-C hub monitor from Dell for $900.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the curved stuff. I bought the LG 20 or 32-inch 4K, and I think I'm going to buy another one as soon as the prices of video cards come out of the stratosphere.
they
So,
pretty much are there. They're
yeah,
they're hovering right around MSRP, and they're starting to dip a little bit.
yeah. Crypto came down, and I bought the one because I know my work laptop, the one I am. You can't see that, but the one I'm talking on now does push at least one 4K. I've never tested two 4K in the USB-C. I never tested that, but the one, it's a very large monitor, extremely large.
At least that's what all the ladies tell him.
Yeah, that's what all the ladies tell me.
he's all about the size.
I'm all about the size. Very large
Size queen.
monitors.
Just go hit up Sonnet for one of their little
Yeah.
GTG breakout boxes and call it a day. You're like here's my Thunderbolt, whack.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, too much nerd. Yes. Who's Snarks? Why? Snarks, Wisconsin. Well, that's a new name, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
Regardless of the phallic talk.
I mean, Snarks, you could ask us a question. We can jump off.
Yeah,
that.
we talked.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a monitor's as big as probably I want it. Probably two of them would be perfect, and I'd adapt to it after that. But, very reasonably priced. I'm going to buy one as soon as my the video cards come down to price. I'm not a gamer, so it should be pretty easy.
You just want something that can competently drive a pair of 4K.
Yeah, like give me some that drive 4K MKBs. You know, movies I did not totally download off the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I will, look at 4K when I have no other option, because you know what? I don't want to see anything that close.
So have you ever worked on a 4K?
Yep.
system?
Hate it.
Really?
Hate it. I would rather have 6 full HD monitors than one 4K.
I would disagree. I would rather have I have 4 HD monitors at work, and I would rather have 2 4K monitors. Like just 2.
I've got 2 24-inch 4K monitors, and that's just about perfect. I could probably use a third one, but
my poor eyes.
Yeah.
Right.
William, what do you think about this?
I've had a 4K monitor, and I've had multiple other monitors, and right now I'm using a 34-inch ultra wide, non-curved. because Gigabyte actually made one with a built-in KVM that had 144 hertz refresh rate.
Ooh.
The MQ34, MQ34W, MQ34. It's like $500 at Best Buy.
How many ports on the KVM?
It's only like one or the other, but it's selectable. So there's two
that's
HDMI
fine.
ports.
So it's just two. Oh, okay.
There's a display port, two HDMIs. I believe that's it. But and USB-C. So it's got USB-C and a little bit of power off that. But you can tell it the USB-C is one input, and you can tell it what port you want the USB to be on.
I have a 32-inch 4K and prefer 324 and
324s.
So I think the 3 monitor setup is probably the best.
I wish I had a third.
Hard no.
Really?
See, I need a third
when
one.
I had two, I'm like,
two to work.
I think I need a
I need a
third.
third for watching movies.
I have a third. I got 3, and I'm like, I think I need a fourth. I have 4 now, and I'm like, you know what I could use? I could use a small fifth. Like right now, I will be honest. This one is providing me the blue color, and this one is providing me the amber color.
I've no. Do you
when
you
I'm
have,
working? When I'm working,
you have nightlight set?
No, I'm using the crudest form of color correction that you can possibly do. I'm using my monitors as lighting.
Yeah, you're using the monitors. Okay.
but when I'm working, it's like messaging on one, email and spreadsheets on another, VMs and like VS Code or something.
The size of the monitors for 4K that I have at my house personally, it feels excessive for the size. If I have 3 smaller 4Ks, I think the 3 monitor setup. I think you can dial up the
scaling correctly.
The scaling a little bit.
Scaling has gotten to the point where it's not nearly as terrible as it used to be. It used to be just an abomination.
No, it's just bad.
Just UI scaling in Windows.
It used to be terrible.
I think you can get the scaling where 3 4K, 28-inch-ish, plus or minus, take your pick. 4K monitors scaling. 3 of them are like the perfect setup.
It's really about what you have to work on, because like my desk, I have a 55-inch desk. I had a 32-inch LG before. My other option was to get another one of those that would literally take up the entire top of the desk. Personally, if I had an option to have whatever I want, I'd probably have 2 ultrawides, like one on top of the other. Because I really like having the ultrawide when it comes to having 2 things side by side. Or technically, I would have rather had the Q ultrawide or whatever, the 30, like the extra wide one, but I couldn't get the one I wanted in like the refresh and size.
Yeah. See, my problem is I have to do too much stuff that's RDPs inside of RDPs inside of RDPs, or VMware Horizon inside of RDP inside of Citrix, and too much stupid shit. And most of the you can't like on an ultra wide, I can't snap 2 different screens into one ultra wide. It's just something is not going to play right.
I can do 4 on this one. And there's but I get what you mean. Like you snap one, it doesn't look right.
It's more just the other end not being able to handle it, or the software not being able to handle it, and what I have to connect to changes day by day depending on what customer I'm dealing with.
The one thing I did use, I used to run an AMD iFinity setup where I had 3 1600 by 1200s in a vertical orientation, and they had the software. I forget what it was called, Hydra or something. You could custom define snapping windows.
Yeah.
So if I still had that software, I could do some pretty cool things with a giant ultra-wide monitor.
Right. That's the thing. I use Edge Smash and Snap way too often. To be like, you take away the more edges, honestly, the more edges of screens that I have, the better, because then I can align stuff really quickly. And I move windows around all day. I'll have stuff here, and then 5 minutes later it'll be here, and like it depends on what I'm referencing and what I'm working on.
It's not for me. It comes down to, again, I don't have a separate office. I'm in an apartment, and it's not that I'm trying to impress anyone, but it's one of those things where having a bunch of monitors on my desk in my living room makes it hard to disconnect from work when it's time to disconnect from work. It just
disconnect from work. I don't
Yes.
understand.
Well, after being like pretty much the only IT guy for like 7 years for a while, I appreciate not thinking about work sometimes.
Yeah.
And
it's just
yet
like
here you are.
Yep.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, William.
But I think I told you before I had a 55-inch desk, 34-inch ultra wide with 2 little speakers, and my laptop, or my work laptop, or my personal laptop, covers the whole top of the desk and doesn't look terrible in my living room.
I have 44 inches of desk space. I just measured. The more desk space I have, the more clutter it collects. So
this is true. I just cleaned mine.
Agreed.
Spent like 5 hours rewiring everything.
A snail will grow into the shell that it is given. You give yourself a bigger shell, and you will grow into.
I also got this.
All the fucking bullshit that you think you don't need. Yes.
Oh yeah. So you've seen my office.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Why do you think I am getting a toolbox literally twice as wide as I have now delivered tomorrow?
I also got this because this is how much space I have right here within this like wall nook thing that I'm in. So it was like, it's 55 inches, 55-inch desk. Yeah. That's where it goes.
Yeah. I will say on the 4K thing or whatever, earlier on in my current engagement, I did buy I knew I would be traveling a lot. So I bought a really nice 4K travel monitor, which is powered off of the Lightning USB-C, or it's powered off of
pull some juice, I bet.
Yeah, it was expensive, and I bit the bullet, and long. So I was there, and like I set up I was there, and I was like the only guy who had dual monitors, and everyone knows, like, it doesn't matter what dual monitors you have. Everybody works better with more screen real estate. I don't care who you are, what resolution you have. Everyone works better with more screen real estate. And, my boss was there at the time. He's like, holy shit, man, that's a really nice monitor. And I'm doing my thing. And so, long story short, the company paid for it, even though I was more than willing to just kind of buy it on my own. But where I was going with that, real estate matters with your mousing capabilities.
Something I always wanted and I dreamed about back when I was younger, and it came out, and it's not a thing anymore. The PLP setup, the portrait landscape portrait with the Dell 30-inch in the middle and the 24s in vertical with the same pixel pitch.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Because that was like the spreadsheet days. Like, you're like, it all depends on what you're doing. Like, you get your spreadsheets which require vertical pixelation, and then
or text documents, especially because these at least most of my spreadsheets I tend to go wide, so I have 700 columns. So I more need the width than vertical real estate. But text documents, you kind of want something where you can show the full page,
diagrams, flow charts.
Diagram.
I bet 4K 32 would be pretty good.
Yeah, see, I like my 24 4Ks.
Yeah,
I couldn't see having like something in the 30s. It's just too big. I'd prefer to have another monitor over bigger monitors.
So I have that 32-inch 1440 screen, which, by the way, a 32-inch 1440 and a 24-inch 1080 have the same pixel pitch.
Yeah.
So the icons are the exact same size. There's just more of it. And I took it back to it's at my parents' house now. So when I'm visiting down there, I've got something to work on if I need to. Man, I forgot how like not sharp that screen is. It's like it never bothered me.
The pixels.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, like I'm at work and I've got 1080s and I'm like, it's the same there, same here. Now I've got this thing which is a 3440 by 1440 on 34 inches, and I go and look at that thing and I'm just like, oh man, you sad little man. Also,
I've been a sad little man. I don't know where that was going to take us, but I was hoping for something.
I was waiting.
I keep hearing this noise, like, and it's not me because my AC's running and I can't hear myself.
Oh no!
Here.
Hold on.
Oh, somebody's phone.
Nope. He's hearing this.
Oh.
Just wait for it.
Yeah.
I just gave away the secret, Brian.
Yeah. We have some ambient music in the background. It's real low. Most of the time, you should barely even perceive it.
I keep hearing the high notes, and I'm like,
yeah. Every once in a while, it goes a little weird and does some high notes, and
right.
It tries to get fancy. Like, no, I want the like Gregorian chant,
right?
Kind of
and most of it is. It may be the most consistent thing about this channel. No, it's pretty good. But I too, William, have occasionally been like, what's going on?
It's backcountry.
Right.
Good movie, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Great movie.
Excellent. Yeah, we just watched it again in our Johnny Depp marathon.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Oh God! It was more years than should have been where I didn't know that Johnny Depp played Hunter S. Thompson.
Oh, really?
And boy, what a good characterization of him. Like he was 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Playing Hunter S. Thompson. So,
yeah, good, very good movie.
I don't think I've seen this movie.
Wow! No, you have.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. You had to have seen it.
You have to have seen it. Everyone saw it.
I believe it or not, I have not.
It's up on Plex.
Let's say we can
sir,
fix that.
Sir.
Multiples of us have it on
Sir Christopher, if you will. You have a homework assignment.
Yes.
Now, you be careful about throwing around homework assignments in media consumption, because you will die under the weight of my and my spouse's media capabilities.
I will take that challenge.
Right. Have you seen Hamilton yet?
No. I don't watch stupid movies.
Okay. Right.
I'm just messing with you.
I'll watch Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when you watch Hamilton. Have you seen Leaving Las Vegas?
No.
Okay.
Oh.
Friday?
Yes.
Okay. So 1 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah.
So Leaving Las Vegas, I also have up on Plex. I think Friday.
I think I would see Leaving Las Vegas. I would watch Hamilton just because. I'm not disagreeing with you, sir. I'm not disagreeing.
Watch. Chris is going to roll out and be like, I've got all these pre-code movies I want you to watch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have a whole bunch of them up. Oh, God. There are some amazing pre-code
There are amazing movies in pre-code.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
But I
also, if you haven't seen it, Trinity and Beyond, the atomic bomb movie, narrated by William Shatner.
I love
Amazing.
Atomic bomb.
Trinity and Beyond.
He keeps the William Shatner vocal and pacing things to a minimum. And when he does that, he's actually a really great narrator.
Well, William Shatner is like the best narrator.
With the video.
Leonard Nimoy is probably the best narrator. He's amazing.
Nope.
They're both really good.
David Attenborough.
There's a lot of good ones.
David Attenborough is not even in the same category.
Right.
He's like, he is the.
He's not a narrator.
He's the prototype.
He's just narration.
Is this about the all the cancer?
No.
Like,
I mean, they talk a little bit about the cancer, but it's largely about all of the nuclear detonations that the U.S. conducted from Trinity until they stopped above ground testing.
Gotta love the Castle
'cause
Bravo chapter. Oops.
There was a time when they did the underground, the like here, don't look at the fireball like detonations, and then the space detonations.
Yep.
Yeah. And all those motherfuckers who were on the don't look at the fireball detonation all got cancer and died horrible deaths. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just squint.
Yeah. Squint. Yeah. Look through the bones of your hand where you can barely see the bones of your hand. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
No, my favorite is the one where it's like, hey, hunker in the pit, and when the bright flash ends, then get up and run towards it.
Yeah, no, thank you. And all those guys died of horrible cancers, and yeah.
So
there was a trial. There were trials on that, right?
No.
I think
U.S. military. You don't get to see us.
I'd have to, get out the old Googler, but I thought there were lawsuits where, they were put in direct harm and so forth.
Yeah, you're time traveling back to the nuclear testing age. What do you bring with you? A lead bib.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I stop at the dentist office first?
The closest I have to that experience is a friend of mine. His grandfather was drafted in Vietnam, and they put his bitch ass on some fucking helicopter where they sent him in
Green Agent Orange.
They sent him in, and he got exposed to Agent Orange, and his grandfather got some weird cancer or some fucking thing where it was a cancer very close but not directly related to Agent Orange. It was so close, but it wasn't protected under that relief thing.
Oh.
And my buddy, he said he has nerve damage because it was passed down to him because of like this Agent Orange crap. Like,
so when they say exposure to Agent Orange, like how much exposure are we talking to get the kind of side effects there? Was it like
I don't want to be in the same county. I don't want to.
They don't know.
I don't want to be. I'm good. Like, it's good.
It's probably more than like walking through the same military base as where it was stored, but it's probably less than spraying it for 3 weeks on end.
Yeah, they sprayed it and then they walked out there like the next day and it was still like dangerous.
They don't know. And they've never really wanted to know.
Yeah,
it goes back to the fog of war. Like, all this shit happened. Nobody knows exactly what happened. There's no real documentation. But dude, they were blowing that shit up in front of everybody everywhere.
They
Like,
were.
are you
Oh, yeah.
kidding me?
Bikini Atoll.
They were blowing that shit up in front. They were dropping bombs full of. It didn't matter. It didn't matter the cost.
Bikini Atoll's pretty messed up.
Yeah, they're dropping sulfur bombs today. Who cares? Fuck it. Let them die. That's what they think. I know the chat took a turn for the southern.
I mean, we're getting into one of my favorite topics on the planet, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not on topic, but interesting nonetheless.
Well, you could argue that governments are just corporations that gobble up other corporations.
You mean like China?
I
mean, that is a state-sized corporation.
China is more overtly a corporation than many other governments.
Yeah,
they all behave that way to an extent.
China hasn't left its border in 500 years to invade anybody.
Well, corporations don't invade
people. They do it
people.
economically. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like corporations don't invade people. They do hostile takeovers.
Only these are corporations with sovereign immunity.
Corporations go to Africa and build roads.
It's very interesting. Like
Bingo.
There's a very respected hedge fund manager that I followed since about 2007 or 8, who has been very vocal about because China doesn't have any intellectual property laws. And
well, none that are useful to anyone other than the currently in power oligarchs.
So he would say, well, China's stealing our intellectual property. Well, I mean, we're offshoring,
giving it to them willingly.
Yeah, we're just offshoring our manufacturing to somebody who can work $1 a day cheaper and bring those goods back to the United States and pocket that dollar that we saved. So I don't know if I can blame the Chinese directly for that, because every company who's ever offshored that they're looking at their books. They're like, yeah, we can sell this for X amount of dollars and write it down for Y amount of dollars and sell it back to the United States for $1 extra.
I mean,
why wouldn't I do it?
Even if they weren't manufacturing it directly, they would have brought people or sent people over to work and worked their ways up those and brought them back home and had them implement things at home. It's just faster this way.
The U.S. did that too. We stole basically the entire textile industry.
Yeah,
like we stole that intellectual property. I mean, stole it. That's the way it goes. And is it great? No. Like we developed these systems so that people would develop innovations and get rewarded for it and wouldn't hide it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you want to really get crazy, look at the U.S. and Russian space programs, especially in the 60s.
Yeah, that was a
little different, but that basically was, hey, these are ours now.
They were trying to steal things from each other.
No,
I meant where we got the scientists from originally.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough.
It was from the fucking Nazis, dude.
Yep,
right.
Operation Paperclip.
Yeah, but that was all of the Western at the time. The Western, like a lot of European states got scientists from them. Basically, they said, "You guys fucked up. Like, you're going to work for us now, or we are going to kill you. Like, you either die in jail or you give us your intelligence."
They weren't going to die in jail.
They weren't, because their fight didn't matter. They didn't care about it.
Nuremberg was real. they weren't going to die in jail.
Well,
No.
and they were all pretty grateful that they fell into the West's hands and not
Right.
Correct.
Russians' hands.
Yeah.
It could have been worse. They could have given up. Well, they could have worked towards that goal and still ended up in a gulag.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I mean,
but
gulags in
we
Siberia.
saw
super
them
pleasant.
as we saw them as an opportunity to be basically
Hugely
put the nuts to put the screws to the bolts, and like, you're going to work for us now. Like,
Yeah.
deal with it.
Basically every government ever is willing to overlook a lot of things if it's beneficial for that government.
Agreed.
Hopefully your
most times-
government.
most-
Even more if it's them doing it.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Hopefully your government is, still somewhat related to its populace and is working for them. But you look at China today. As far as that government is concerned, its populace is probably like maybe 10,000 people, and the rest are just an indentured servant class.
That's
Like those people don't exist as far as that
Yeah.
leadership is concerned.
So you're saying
Pretty much.
China's Broadcom? They're catering to the top 600 companies.
No, because that
Only
implies
certain
that the other companies could get there.
Oh,
Only certain people get to participate in the world economy.
Well, I don't even
Okay.
think they think of them necessarily as people.
there's a
They
lot
think of them as human-shaped tools.
Yeah.
is that
Yeah,
Taiwan where the Taiwan where
I mean, tell me the Social Security system doesn't think American are human-shaped tools.
I mean,
Is it-
it thinks of them as human-shaped contributors.
Is it China or Taiwan where the Foxconn factory had the anti-jumper net?
I think it was China.
China.
It was the anti-suicide nets.
Yeah.
Taiwan doesn't. I mean, Taiwan is high pressure, but it's not the same kind of high pressure.
I agree. I just didn't remember because I'm like, I'd be really surprised if something like that from China got out.
Yeah.
Well, there's always stuff from China that gets out, but it's highly suppressed, and
it doesn't get
you
back
have to-
in either.
Yeah,
Right.
it doesn't get back in. It's a one-way street.
That's why
They
I was
actually
asking
don't
about Taiwan.
care about what gets out. They care about what gets in. They do not care about what gets out. It's unimportant to them.
Well, they know everybody's just going to kind of ignore it. We live in that 24-hour news cycle. Something might make a splash, and then everybody forgets about it the next day. There's something else. There's some celebrity that's doing some other celebrity, and that's way more interesting than what's happening in China.
It sucks
I mean,
that there's just
yeah.
so much noise.
Yeah. The noise floor is so high.
I'd love to hear some news and be able to get properly like incensed about something and have that conversation for like a week with like my coworkers and my friends. Instead, it's not the new thing. Whatever the new thing is tomorrow.
If you're lucky, you have 24 hours.
The closest you're going to get is like some weeks on the BBC, certain Al Jazeera broadcasts.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't have to do with like the core Muslim world, Al Jazeera does not care. So they broadcast pretty neutrally.
Yeah. They've actually been a reasonable source for at least a decade.
Their election coverage is actually really good.
Gotta keep that circus running.
The drones don't revolve. Yeah,
bread and circuses.
That's really what it comes down to. I don't care what kind of economy you're in. It's a economic fight. It's always been an economic fight since the 1400s. It's always been an economic
Got it.
since
Got
we
it, sir.
crawled out of the goddamn filth. It's always
Not
been
even not directly economic resources. Economics is just an abstraction.
Yeah,
You know
It's
what?
an
you can.
abstraction of resources.
It's not
Yeah.
even.
Plus
You know
or
what?
minus.
And when you turn into
British
resources
Empire-
of economics, it's been forever.
The British Empire has proved that it's less about economics than it is about culture. If your culture is attractive, the economics will follow. And the US did really well with that until we changed the equation from being about culture to being about economics. And now, like, once you change it to something that isn't our strong point, like, we're pretty good at economics, but the Chinese are always going to be better.
Yeah.
Because they don't care about burning 2 million people tomorrow. That is a powerful way to make
if
money.
they thought it would give them 1% extra GP, they'd do it in a heartbeat.
Right.
But
if we change the equation back to culture, Coca-Cola and Levi's wins all the time, every time.
The US's primary export is culture.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, Hollywood movies, all the fucking great movies come from us.
I mean, despite the fact that we barely have culture in ourselves, but at the same time, we have a lot of cultural derivatives. We're very good at taking everything else and packaging it up and selling it very well.
And
everybody wants it.
In a more refined sugar sort of way.
Yeah. We're the high fructose corn syrup of culture.
Yes,
have another Twinkie.
It's an interesting dichotomy we have. It's so interesting. And if I can say, George Carlin said it best, that if you're born right now in these times, you're given what did he say?
I don't know. You tell us.
You're giving us a ticket to the freak show. That's what he said. You're given a ticket to the freak show. But if you're born in America, you're given a front row seat. Holy goddamn Jesus, you're given a front row seat. And boy, is he true to that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. All right. Well,
yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, it's true, right? Like, although the same things have been being said again since the 1400s, right? Maybe at slightly slower pace. But
yeah,
everybody's been declaiming how strange and awful things have gotten.
Yeah, kids these days. It's something that's been uttered for the last 10,000 years.
Yeah, kids these days.
Right.
And can't show up to work on time. Yeah.
Ah, the music. It's just
these kids.
That's just noise.
Music. Yeah, that's just that's just
who is
noise.
this Beethoven hooligan?
What are these kids doing with rocks and sticks?
It's
either rocks or sticks.
Rock and or roll. Oh, Jesus.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to bow off for the night. So it's been good talking to you.
Yeah, we're past the 2-hour mark. It's probably time to wrap it up. We are so far off topic.
We lost topic an hour and 50 minutes ago.
It's all good. I mean, nobody's watching anyway, so except for Aurora. Right. We all love you.
Our viewer.
Yeah, our viewer. You're our favorite viewer, Aurora. All right. Everyone take it easy. See you guys around.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Have a good night.